Metroid and Halo have a very special place in my heart and the hearts of many. They are some of the few games that have shaped me into who I am today. These two franchises are genre definers, but that isn't what is important to me. These games cause so many emotions in me it's kinda hard to describe, but I will try my best to do so. This video isn't a comparison in the sense of gameplay or what they did for the industry or anything like that. It was going to be, but I noticed it sounded too soulless. So I decided to come at it from a different angle. How these games influence me, in what ways they do this, and why they affect me the way they do. I want this video to be more personal, and to be a kind of thank you to these games. So without further ado, let's look at Metroid and Halo. To kick things off, the gameplay. The gameplay of these games can only be described in one way: immersive. I don't mean immersive as in feeling good to play. Oh, I mean more than that. I get lost within these games. I don't feel like I'm playing a game. I lose all sense of spatial awareness and I'm fully invested in the game and what it's trying to do. I get put into the game, if that makes sense. To make an example of where this feeling is at its strongest, I would say that Halo 3 ODST and the Metroid Prime series do this to me in the most powerful sense. It helps to have headphones on while playing. As the player, you get thrown into these new, dangerous, yet familiar environments. You get lost in the world as you explore the settings and fight enemies that come your way, or not fight at all. Sure, Halo 3 ODST has missions where it's more along the lines of classic Halo, with gung-ho action, a story to follow and a war to win, and that is great too, but it's the slow moments that really draw me in. Like in the missions where you play as the Rookie. These missions are very similar to Metroid in how you traverse the world and uncover secrets. There's a set path, sure, but where's the fun in that? You have this whole world to explore, so go do it. You get rewarded for doing so, like in Metroid. It's that sense of choice that connects me to the gameplay. I don't have to take this path. I don't have to go back and find this weapon, vehicle, audio log and so on. I'm playing the game, and whether I go to those places or not is up to me. That's a great feeling, especially when there's been a huge focus on being told where to go and being forced down those paths with modern games. It's why I never really connected to games like Mass Effect, modern Pokemon or anything on PlayStation. From the time I spent with them, it is restrictive in the sense that I didn't really have a choice of where to go. Metroid and Halo are games full of choice, and it's directly woven into the gameplay, being under my control, and I like that. Every Metroid Prime game has the effects that I've mentioned: the control, the choices, and most of all, immersion. Metroid games have always felt good to play, but the Prime series is by far the champions of control in my opinion. I know exactly how I will move when playing the games. It doesn't matter which way I play Metroid Prime, with the control or Wiimote, I'm still completely in sync with the movement and motions of the game. If I make a mistake, that's entirely on me, never thanks to the game. Both schemes offer something different to me, though I will say I prefer the Wiimote scheme for the accuracy of the controls and immersion. Metroid Prime's control scheme is flawless, but if the controls didn't match the game, then it would be pointless. Flashed out worlds to explore, so many different enemies to see. Much like I mentioned with ODST, there is a set path that you should take, but it is encouraged, if not vital, to explore and find hidden items. Along the way, it's possible to find out more about the world you are in by scanning the environment, animals and lore. This is what gives Metroid a strength over almost any other franchise: the ability to flesh out the worlds, animals and history of it all. All of this is a choice. I don't have to scan this, but I'm choosing to because I want to find out more about it. It feels really rewarding and satisfying to learn more about the game this way, and it's a shame that more don't do it. It's not just the control and gameplay that makes Metroid and Halo so good to play. It's the mood, music, and atmosphere. The Metroid game that emphasizes the most, in my eyes, is the whole of Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. There's one area that shines the most though, and that is Torvus Bog. This area is without a doubt my favorite place in the entire series, and maybe in any game. Everything about it is beautiful and it's unique to Metroid as well. It is the first swamp in the games. The music and the sounds of the environment just pull me in and it's a joy to the ears. I am put into the shoes of Samus more here than anywhere else. When I was in college, whenever I wasn't really doing anything, I would just listen to Torvus Bog's music and put on environmental noises like metallic clacking, rain, muddy footsteps, animals, the lot. I would then lean back, close my eyes and let my imagination run wild. It's truly a surreal experience, and no other game or piece of music has done that for me. Torvus Bog's music is so powerful and beautiful that I always imagine walking through the rain with that music. Just listen to this. Some pieces have come close to this surreal feeling, however. Tallon Overworld gives a similar feel, but it's not quite as mystical to me. There is a track that ties with Torvus Bog's music, and that's its other song. Torvus Bog's Submerged Temple song is as atmospheric, moving, and magical as its companion. Listening to this song while having bubbling noises from time to time makes you feel like you're listening to something that's underwater. Halo has songs that have this sort of effect as well. I will touch on more music later, but let me mention Halo 3's one final effort. When this theme plays, I get transported right into Halo. It feels like I am a super soldier fighting through waves of alien forces and the odds are stacked against me. But this song lets me know I can do it, that I have to do it, that I can win. And just that ending, man. This is the embodiment of Halo.
Got it, Chief! Jump! Floor it! Right into the hangar! Hang on! Chief! If we don't make it,
We'll make it.
it's been an honor serving with you, John.
What also helps me connect with these games is the sense of scale. Everything around you is bigger than you and everything has this greater purpose. Like it's been there for eons before you arrived and will likely be there for just as long after you leave. The things that make this clear is how the games present the Chozo and the Forerunners. The two races are surprisingly similar in many ways. They're mysterious, ancient, and have reached further than any other civilization and have gone beyond what we can understand. It's this mystery of their technology that carries them for me. When you first see the Halo and what it holds, it's mesmerizing and fills me with awe. It's the same with the Chozo, seeing what they were able to do for Samus, the planets they inhabited, and so on. It just baffles me. They both have this sense of being natural and artificial at the same time, and they blend so seamlessly. Take Halo 2's Delta Halo for example. You drop feet first into the battle, and then when it subsides, you get to look around and notice the buildings. They're all made of rock and being claimed by nature again with the moss. The first thought is that the Forerunners built them. Did they? Why would a civilization build things so primitive in comparison to the ring they were built on? That's the mystery of it. You travel around in some vehicles and go through caverns and fight more, but the environments feel familiar but also alien. You go in between these ancient temple-like constructs to natural hills and plains, but they're not natural. Everything in this area is artificial. Halo Combat Evolved also touches on this, but it doesn't strike me as much as Halo 2. The line between artificial and natural is far more blurred, and that makes it more fascinating to me. But then the music kicks in, and is it one hell of a track. To contrast, Metroid Prime's Tallon 4 is almost the complete opposite of Halo 2's Delta Halo, but it is just as mysterious. Almost everything you see here is natural, and given that the location is actually on a planet, that's not much of a surprise. The place is full of life with lakes, bugs, plants, and so much more. While Halo 2 is mostly artificial with some nature, Metroid Prime is mostly natural with some constructed parts. It helps that the game takes place on an actual planet. The different biomes, sub-areas to each one, and the music pulls me into the game more and more, and for a game that came out in 2002, that's a real testament to how well made and ahead of its time the game is. If there's one thing that both Halo and Metroid are known for, it's their music. Even if you've never played a Halo game or Metroid game before, you hear those piano keys and those monk-like chants, you think of Halo. When you hear those sci-fi twists, the atmospheric tone of the music along with the melodies seamlessly woven into it, you think of Metroid. It's no shock then that I think that Metroid and Halo have the best soundtracks in gaming. Each melody and song perfectly sync with the environment. As I touched on earlier, Metroid Prime 2's Torva's Bog is probably the best example of music reflecting the environment. That's not to say there aren't other perfect examples of this. Here are some more of them. Metroid is the definer of atmospheric music. It doesn't just incorporate the atmosphere, it includes the melodies, beats, and many other things into the tracks. They enhance the message of the songs they are trying to come across. Phendrana is a cold, beautiful place, but also mysterious, and it feels like an adventure to go through it. The depths of Phendrana Drifts perfectly captures this. The cold winds, the beauty, and the mystery of the location. Metroid does this with every single piece of music in its history, even in the most surprising places. I have already mentioned Torvus and the two songs that accompany it, so I won't go into them too much, but these two tracks are perfect examples of what makes Metroid music so great. The melodies, the atmosphere, the mystery, and the setting strengthens it so much more. Rain with this track is a must as I displayed earlier. The submerged version is just as beautiful. It's a truly hypnotic and magical theme, and underwater effects only enhance the experience. If there is another type of music that Metroid is known for, it's the many types of boss music in the franchise. There are a plethora of examples of fantastic tracks for bosses, and each tells a different story. Rundus, a fallen warrior who is fighting his corruption. Quadraxis, a battle against a mechanical titan serving those that it was built to destroy. Dark Samus, the haunting manipulator of life that is out to get you personally. And Ridley, the ultimate showdown with everything on the line. This franchise holds so many amazing boss themes that it's impossible to mention them all, but these are just some of my favourites. You may have noticed that when it comes to music, I've been talking a lot about the Prime series. This is because I find that the Prime series is superior to the mainline games in most ways. This is me being a bit biased, since I generally prefer 3D games, but even the music is done better in the Prime games in my opinion. The only 2D games that compete are Samus Returns and AM2R, even though the latter is kinda cheating. It's not to say that things from Super Metroid, Fusion, or Zero Mission are bad. I just prefer the songs in the Prime games in almost every single way. The immersion, atmosphere, and the locations being so in sync with the music, it just makes it a magical experience for me. And it's not something the classic 2D games can replicate for me. Of course, there are great examples of the classic games holding great songs, like Brinstar Depths, Sector 1, and Upper Brinstar, but to me, none hold a candle to Tallon, Phendrana, Torvus, Magmoor, and so on. The music in the Prime series is just too good. Let's not forget about Halo. This series has way too many good tracks, so I'll go through what I think are the peaks of the franchise. Halo 2's Mombasa suite also gives me this moving sensation, particularly when the drumline hits and the bass comes in. I just get lost in the music and the voices, and then that guitar. Mixed in with all the gunfire and the momentary silence, it's a joy. Another piece that has somewhat changed for me is Combat Evolved's Under Cover of Night, and it's for a very particular reason. For those that haven't seen Halo Legends, it's a short series of animations that take place within the Halo universe. There are 7 episodes, and each has distinct styles and themes, but most of them have one common subject, and that's being some of the most depressing animated episodes I've ever seen in a show. There is an episode called Homecoming, where the story touches on a Spartan 2 named Daisy. I recommend watching Roanoke's video on Spartan 2s. Then watch Halo Legends on Netflix. It's really good and you'll understand why this theme has turned into a depressing song for me. And from the same episode, Halo Wars' Spirit of Fire is used, and that too has become a depressing theme. Here are some more examples of songs that reflect the environment and action in Halo. And then, the opening to Halo 3 ODST's gameplay. The tone, atmosphere, and silence are almost deafening. The slow build-up of the music along with the rain draws me in really closely. Being dropped into a world where you see the results of the battle that took place there, it really gives you an eerie sensation while giving you the sense of foreboding and dread. Metroid and Halo are also known for their choirs. The fact that they can be so different is incredible. These games have a holy feeling to them, and it's thanks to those choirs. Even though they share the same tools, how they are used is unique. Metroid has this tense, atmospheric tint to the choirs, while Halo has a more of a wondrous and grand type of choir. Both types work incredibly well and are inseparable from their respective franchises. It is also worthy to point out that Halo doesn't feature typical science fiction tropes when it comes to its soundtrack, while Metroid defines what a science fiction soundtrack should sound like. This isn't bad in any way though. It makes them stand out from the rest of the genre, and serves to suit both extremes while making the takes distinct, and they are well executed. Halo and Metroid are also known for their world building. The universes for these games are so rich, alive, and filled with history. Every planet, location, and character you meet has some sort of story attached to it. Again, Halo 2 shined in this area as it gave us a more in-depth look at the Covenant, how the Human Covenant war stands, and even the details of the Forerunners and Halos. But the king of world building in Halo has to go to Halo 3 ODST in my book. Its ability to be more openly explored and allow us to find secrets gives it a unique edge that no other Halo game had attempted up to that point. A Covenant attack from the perspective of a civilian and what happened to them. The audio logs tell the story of a woman named Sadie Endisher and what happened to her during the Covenant attack on New Mombasa. There are also other little secrets, like dead elites in places, the famous Remember Reach, and many more. Halo 3 ODST's world building is very similar to Metroid in this sense. The world tells you these stories through many different ways, and even finding things you weren't supposed to see. There are also more direct forms, like with the audio logs as mentioned earlier, as well as the clues that lead into other missions. There is a scene that stands out to me specifically, and to those who know Jackals, you will understand why. Halo Combat Evolved and Halo 2 also give off incredible stories through the world, be it direct or subtle. It leaves so much to the imagination and lets us wonder what happened in certain places, creating a sense of mystery. If I had to say which Halo game I prefer when it comes to the delivery of the world building, I would have to say Halo 2. This is largely because the music is so gripping and emotional in so many scenes like this that I just can't describe. It's almost holy. The combination of the stories being told, the context, and then the music on top emphasizes the scale and the situations presented. Particularly in Halo 2, where you ride a small elevator-like transport and travel through the water under the Forerunner temples. You see a lot of sunken temples teeming with life and leaving us to wonder what happened to them. Were they put there on purpose, or had a destructive event occurred on Halo? It's never explained. Halo Reach is also really powerful in the world building department. The game is really dull as you get further into the game. This can be interpreted that the planet itself is dying as the Covenant's attack is having a greater toll on the planet, and the war as a whole. The ground getting more lifeless and grey, the tone getting bleaker, and the music makes it truly depressing. The realistic detail of Reach also allowed it to be somewhat more immersive due to the high detail and lifelike scenarios. While not quite on the level of Halo 3 ODST and Halo 2, it tells a very good story, and the world tells the story of defeat, loss, and hopelessness. Overall, it feels more down to earth. The Prime series is near enough the definer of world building in gaming. You can learn about the world, enemies, and histories of the locations at your discretion. That lore is packed with so much cool information, it's a crime to not at least glance at it. While the things to scan aren't exactly too hard to find, it can feel tedious to scan all of it given the wealth of knowledge there is to uncover. There are so many fun things to learn though. For example, in Metroid Prime, it is said that the space pirates were attempting to re-engineer the Chozo power suit and use it for themselves in the same way that Samus does. Those tests don't end well. In Echoes, we learned that the Luminoth were getting so desperate in their fight for survival against the Ing that they used their children as soldiers. In the same game, we learn that Samus is almost a myth to people, with one Galactic Federation trooper believing wholeheartedly in her and seeing Samus as her idol, while another trooper claims that Samus is something like Bigfoot. These games tell incredible, engaging, and believable stories. While Halo tells them more directly and makes it more centralized to the game, Metroid does it more passively. It lets the player find out more of the story on their own, and it's very rewarding and interesting to do so. An interesting point to bring up though is Metroid Prime 3's very Halo-like opening. Corruption seems to take heavy inspiration from Halo 2's opening. Inside a space vessel, tight corridors, and a lot of action with plenty of enemies to fight. Then you travel down to the planet below and repel an invasion. After that, you were sent away to alien territory. It's a common criticism people have for Corruption, but I love this opening. We learn so much about the Galactic Federation and the Metroid universe in general, and it's a bit more action-packed while giving an engaging opening to a brilliant game. If anything, I would have liked to have seen a little more, but have it be more optional. Things like tanks and some tactics of squads in battle. I would have also liked to have seen more development of the soldiers in the background, along the lines of how Echoes handled Squad Bravo. Granted, we get some background dialogue that gives us nice details about other events, but apart from that, that's kind of it. I would have liked something that Halo does with their Marines, where they talk during combat, while they don't do anything, and even talk about the most random stuff when you just stare at them.
Dear sir, kicking ass in outer space, wish you were here.
I heard that, jackass!
I would have liked to have seen this with Corruption, but all you get is told to go away, which is disappointing. Let's not forget about the mainline games in the Metroid franchise. Samus Returns displays the best world building in the 2D games, with Super Metroid coming in a close second. The number of small details, background events, and subtleties is staggering, from the entrance to the Chozo laboratory. There are big creatures in the background that go about their daily lives throughout the game, and it makes SR388 feel truly alive. The robots and the machines are either damaged, destroyed, or working. The depth of all the rooms that you visit, it feels surreal. To then have the 3D effect on the 3DS active while wearing headphones makes this probably the most immersive 2D Metroid game for me. And it was so good that I played it for 15 hours straight. Super Metroid's world building is also spectacular. Most notably, the first hour of the game is rich with it. The music, tone, environmental storytelling makes Zebes mysterious and then filled with life. Even before we get into the game, we get the sense of dread and unease as we see the Super Metroid and the dead scientists lying around, drawing us in and wanting to find out what happened.
The last Metroid is in captivity. The galaxy is at peace.
Then getting onto Zebes itself, the world is practically dead since the last time Samus was here. There are small bugs in the foreground that scurry away as Samus approaches. Everything is in ruin as you see down Mother Brain's old chamber. Then, as you travel further, the world starts to come more alive, ultimately building up to the reveal of the space pirates. It's nice to go back to previous locations and have it not feel like it's meant to be there for nostalgia alone. There is a reason why this stuff you've seen before is here, and it plays a part in telling the story of the world. I've been talking a lot about the world building and music. There are more great examples, but let's move on to the stars of these franchises. Most people who have heard or played a video game know of Samus Aran and Master Chief. Each character plays a very important role in video game history when it comes to developing their genres. Metroid pioneered the Metroidvania genre with Samus at the forefront. Halo redefined and set the standard for first-person shooters, most notably on console with Master Chief as the face of Xbox. These two very important characters are also more similar than you might realize, and discovering these things makes me respect and appreciate them more as a whole. Whether it is in terms of the game's stories or their impact on the real world, These two are icons of science fiction and video games as a whole. It is no surprise that they are two of my favourite characters in fiction, and that's saying something for characters that don't normally talk too much. These characters have long backstories and even change throughout the games due to the events that occur within them. As mentioned earlier, these two are very similar in multiple ways. Samus and Master Chief in their respective games are, when you think about it, child soldiers. These two have been trained from an early age, 3 and 6 respectively, to protect the galaxy from hostile threats greater than the normal military or government can handle. They are both trained extensively and are then gifted their suits of armor that only them, or similarly trained people, could wear. These suits offer protection and enhance the wearer's abilities dramatically, and they are very distinctive from any other type of power armor, even types that are based on them. Both Samus and Master Chief stand as the only ones capable and willing to save the galaxy from the brink of destruction, and do it multiple times. Whether they are alone or with allies, they will go far and beyond to do their only job: save the galaxy. This is even to the point that they go against orders of their superiors to follow what they believe is right, even if it isn't handled very well. Samus and Master Chief have gone through many hardships and situations that could have killed them, but they persevere with an almost unshakable will. That isn't to say they don't fail either. Samus has failed at her duty to protect and be the symbol of the Chozo, particularly in her teenage years where she was mentally tortured by her demon, Ridley. It was during this point that many of the people that she grew up with lost their lives. She failed to rescue the Hunters in corruption, and she only just about managed to save herself from the same fate that they all had. Samus also somehow has her equipment either stolen or damaged on almost every single mission she goes on, leaving her in a weakened state for some time. She had also failed to fully defeat the space pirates up until the events of Super Metroid, where they were finally defeated for good. That was until the Galactic Federation started to get up to shady stuff, causing Samus to go against them too, potentially becoming an enemy to the galaxy due to the Federation's control over the majority of it. This puts her in an awkward position within the galaxy. She would be shown as a traitor and a fallen hero when she did something only heroes would do: sacrifice themselves in some way for the better of everyone else. Master Chief has been put through similar circumstances. He failed to save one of his team members from the Covenant, someone he grew up with, who was coincidentally named Sam. He failed to save most of the crew on the Pillar of Autumn, including Captain Keyes. He wasn't able to save Sergeant Johnson, his closest friend. He even went to sacrifice himself for Earth by blowing himself up to destroy the Composer. Cortana saved him from his demise, but it was at the cost of her own life. Cortana was the only thing Chief even remotely cared about at this point. They had stuck with each other since combat evolved, and his struggle to cope is obvious. He then defied orders against the UNSC when he learned that Cortana was still alive, and another group was tasked to find her. He went and did it himself, and saw what part of Cortana remained. To fully explain why this is major for the Master Chief, let me explain what happened to Cortana. At the end of Halo 2, Chief had left Cortana behind on High Charity to pursue the Prophet of Truth. Here, Cortana encountered the Gravemind, a creature that controls the Flood parasite. The two spoke for over a month. To keep it brief, it is speculated that the Gravemind infected Cortana with the seeds of the Logic Plague, and the fragment that is seen in Halo 5 is the one that is infected. This would explain her sudden change in character. You can watch this video to understand more. For Chief to see Cortana the way she is now must be confusing, infuriating, and depressing. Seeing someone he trusted and cared for become this twisted and corrupt version of the person he once knew is probably one of the hardest things he would have to handle on an emotional level. But through all their struggles and moments where they get knocked down, they always get back up and fighting, and come out stronger on the other end. Samus and Master Chief have come close to death on many occasions, but it's thanks to their actions that they survive and persevere to fight on. If Samus never spared the Super Metroid on SR388, she would have died on a revisit to the planet with her encounter with the X. If she didn't follow her training and keep in control, she would have died at the hands of many foes, maybe even herself. The same goes for Chief. If he didn't follow his training, he would have been long dead. If he wasn't as close with Cortana as he is, he would have fallen to the Flood. But they pull through it all and have come out the other side better people. There are more trials and challenges that Samus and Master Chief will have to go through. Some may be incredibly tough to deal with, some are completely unknown. But if there is one thing that we know that they have in common no matter what they do, it's that they have jobs to do and missions to complete. And we're along for the ride. Thank you very much for watching. This one took a really long time to make, and it's entirely my fault for that, so I'm very sorry about that. But it is finally out, and I am super proud of this one, even if it did take me a while. But like I said on Twitter, I will work on another video immediately after the completion of this one, and it's going to be something I wanted to talk about for a while. If you want to find out what it is, then feel free to click that subscribe button to be able to watch it when it releases. Liking the video will also go a long way. I want to thank you all for your support and patience. I'm sorry I haven't been posting too much, but there is more to come, so don't worry about that. To add on to the topic of Halo and Metroid though, it turns out that the senior character artist for Halo 4 and 5 has been hired at Retro Studios for Metroid Prime 4 as lead character artist. This is a pretty big deal given his style seems to mesh really well with Metroid Prime's look, so the two franchises seeming like they will be more unified than before, and I find that awesome. To round things off, I would like to thank Gene Santana for the video suggestion. It was great to have you as Patreon. I'm sorry it took so long, but it's here now and I hope you're happy with it. I would like to thank my patrons, Metroid X Productions, Reese Niles, and Randy Rhodes. Reese Niles being a new patron, and I've worked with him before on a podcast. The link to it is here. It was a while ago, but you know, still check it out. Thank you all so much for your support. I don't know where I'd be without you. And with that, I am that Metroid Guy, and I will see you in the next mission. Bye bye.